Welcome to Owner Insights, the podcast that uncovers stories about businesses and their owners. I'm James Orchard, Managing Director of the Crew Harris Orchard. In each episode, I sit down with a business owner to hear their stories. We discuss things like why they started their business, what was their motivation, the mistakes they've made, the lessons they've learned, keys to growth, and what they do differently. These aren't how-to guides or do-as-I-say tips, just real conversations between two business people. Join us as we explore what it takes to become a truly great business. Meg Paech, welcome to Owner Insights. Your business, Yellow Door Care, has become quite something over the years, and I'm really keen to uncover your story and find out how you started it, why you started it, where it's got to, and how you've done it. Maybe if we start at the beginning, and you just provide our listeners with a little bit of context about where you're at now, and then we'll work backwards from there.
Work backwards? Okay. Yeah, so Yellow Door is a home care business just in metropolitan Adelaide, from Gawler down to Sellex, and all of the care we provide is in people's own homes. Okay. So we provide private care, disability care, aged care, and most importantly, palliative care is the core of our business. It's how we started.
Right, okay. So how many people have you got working for you?
We have around 150 people,
yeah,
all working casually. So the way we really measure our business is through the number of hours of care we deliver per week, which is around 3,000 hours, which comparatively in Adelaide is not huge, but it's not small either.
Yeah.
So
so is it quite a competitive industry, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So how many customers would you have, and what sort of average hours do you spend with those? Do you call them customers?
We call them either consumers. We have a consumer-directed model of care, but our aged care clients, so if you're over 65, you're in the aged care industry, they're called clients.
Yep.
And if you're under 65, you might be in the NDIS, and you're called a participant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many hours would you spend with these participants or clients on average?
It really varies.
Yeah.
So someone may only need maybe 10 hours per week to remain independent at home.
Yeah.
But there are other clients who we look after 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So they may live alone and have very busy families, or no family, no friends. And so we are there around the clock.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it really depends on the condition of the person as to the care that you provide them.
That's right.
And do you sit down with the family of the person and work that out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you determine your price for them around how many hours you're
our price is fixed. It's an hourly rate.
Right.
And we have a 2-hour minimum just because of, the difficulty in getting a care worker to actually go to, travel 30 minutes to get to somebody's house. So, we need to provide a minimum standard. I think that's set by Fair Work Australia now. So, we sit down with the family and the participant. Most importantly, they're absolutely part of the conversation to work out what they actually want, because they're having people in their own home. Yeah. So they have to be consenting and agreeing to the care.
Yeah. So quite often a partner, a husband or a wife or other family members will be living with them as well. And then
sometimes, so obviously there's many occasions where a loved one would be looking after their family member 24 hours a day, and they're what's called a carer with a capital C. They're a carer, and there's a Carers Act for them. And so we provide them respite because you really can't look after someone 24 hours a day without a break. So we provide them respite for them to go and
because often they say that the carer is the one who's under more stress, particularly in circumstances where the client or the patient or participant, as you call them, actually has dementia or a condition like that, and they don't realise as well what's actually going on.
Yeah. So it is often the partner who is needing the care. So they're in a way our client as well.
Yeah.
So we try to look after them too.
Now, is it fair to say that this is pretty tough work?
Yeah. It's emotionally difficult at times, but it's incredibly rewarding as well.
Is it?
Very.
Tell us about that.
Very. Well, particularly palliative care is, you're really part of someone's life, such an important part of their life in the dying phase. And so you build a very kind of soulful connection with that person, and obviously very important to the family. So it's a spiritually rewarding part of the job. So, and for our care workers who are the trusted friend and of our clients, it's incredibly rewarding to help other people. So often it's great for our care workers too.
I don't know a whole lot about this, but I would have thought that there's a huge demand from people who want to spend their last days, months, weeks at home. But it does seem that is actually a very difficult thing to achieve. Can you just is that right to say?
Yes. So about 70% of all Australians want to die at home, and only about 19% actually do.
Right.
And it really does rely upon family members and their competence and ability to be able to take over the situation. And then we provide that consultation and guidance. Actually, we provide registered nurses overnight so that the family can get a good night's sleep and then carry on with their job during the day of looking after their loved one. So 70% want to die at home, but only 18% do. And you highlighted the ability of the carers at home as being part of that challenge. Are there other things that are reasons why 50%, 52% actually can't get what they want? Yes,
which is to die at home? I
think, if you have to have your symptoms, your terminal symptoms have to be under control. If you have to, pain has to be controllable and nausea and things like that. So terminal symptoms of dying need to be under control, basically. Okay,
so a lot of people would need to be in hospital or aged care?
Aged care, yes. A lot of people obviously die in aged care because they're already there. But if you're at home and you have symptoms that are uncontrollable, then you, would go to so sometimes go to hospital and sometimes go to a hospice. Yeah. So you got 150 people working for you. That's a lot of people. When did you start? How long have you been in business? We started in 2015, so we've just had our 10-year anniversary. And we started out of a need that I saw in the market for private home care after an experience of looking after my father-in-law with our family, looking after him around the clock and providing his wife, my mother-in-law, the respite that she needs to be able to do that. We found that incredibly difficult because everyone works. Yeah. And so I was given the responsibility of finding an external person to kind of come into the home. Right. And that process was really difficult. Yeah. So I actually had to look on Gumtree and found a medical student to come and provide a bit of respite for everybody. Yeah. And realised that there was a real gap in that private sector. There's obviously the aged care sector with the funding, but if you have Alzheimer's that requires 24-hour care and you want to stay at home, then that subsidy, that runs out pretty quickly. So you are reminding me, you might not remember this, but I remember watching you cross the road with your father-in-law and his Labrador. Oh. Yeah. So that flashback's coming. You took great care. But do you mind saying his name? John Paech. Yeah. Yeah. So you took a really important role in John's care. With the family, you know, I don't want to overplay. We all took turns, just for the record.
Yeah.
His daughter Rebecca was, you know, the main carer, and but you know, my husband, his brother, and obviously his wife. Yeah.
But it's amazing to think it was only 10 years ago that you really couldn't get care at home, and so in those days, you would have been forced to go into aged care.
Yes, without a solid family unit that has the time, then it's a lot of the time it's the only option.
So in those 10 years, you've now sorry to interrupt. Those 10 years, 18% of Australians, is that right? Is it 18% of Australians now die at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm guessing that 18% of Australians are being serviced by businesses like yours.
I think in some form or another. I don't know the stats on that. Families are just so important.
Yeah.
Families can do it on their own if they don't.
I mean, for anyone who's ever experienced aged care, and it's probably a lot of people, the thought of dying at home is much more appealing. And everyone who's listening is going to die at some point. So it would seem that if in 10 years we've got to 18% of Australians, then the upside for your industry is significant.
Yes, ageing population, and it's a real. So I'm not sure if you're aware that the aged care system is about to change. The Aged Care Act. Went passed through legislation late last year, and have updated the aged care standards after the Aged Care Commission. And so it's now going to be called the Support at Home Program, and it starts November 1st.
Right.
And so there's huge reforms in that area, and I think it will be better off for all Australians, more money for the ability to stay at home. And we could talk about that one all day.
Well, it does seem that is definitely a direction that government is going. I mean, I've done it with the NDIS.
Yes.
It's all about being looked after at home now. So, but it still feels like your industry might be a little bit behind where the NDIS industry is. But
it's the same industry in terms of home care. Little did we know when we first started the business that, you know, the NDIS reforms, the largest reforms since Medicare, was going to come through. So when we started as a private home care business, it soon launched very quickly into the NDIS, and that's where we saw huge growth in those first 5 years.
So of those 100, obviously a lot of compliance as well, because it's heavily regulated. Of those 150 people, how many of those do you have in the office dealing with regulations and compliance and all of that?
We have now 7 people in the office, all called care coordinators, so coordinating all the care for all of our clients. And but in terms of compliance, it's mainly myself, and we've got a governance committee. We meet quarterly, and I think the compliance is mostly myself, and my husband helps me with that as well.
Right. Yeah. What's your husband's name?
Christian.
Right.
Yeah.
Big business, heavily, a lot of compliance. Is this what you were expecting when you started it in 2015?
Not really, no. We just thought it would be a small kind of private palliative care service, nursing service. So.
Yeah. So how do you feel about where it's gone?
Yeah, it's great because it does, in terms of a business, it's quite a simple model where you've got just a fee for service and it's a service industry. So it's a fairly simple business in that regard, but it does offer so much variety because you're dealing with people and you're dealing with their lives, you're dealing with their family members. You get all the whole range of personalities and, you know, we're dealing with different things every day. So it's an interesting.
What's your role?
I'm the general manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the head of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just going back to when you started it then, what were you doing before John got sick and you started looking after him.
Yeah.
What were you doing before that thought you could do something like this?
Well, I went into nursing straight from school.
Yep.
And thought that nursing would be a fantastic career for, having children and for travelling. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd just do some nursing, and then I'd been nursing for 25 years when I started the business with my sister Chrissy, who's also a nurse, and actually my older sister as well was part of the business at the beginning. So I was nursing, and I'd done a postgrad in emergency nursing, so I was working at the Royal Adelaide Hospital in the emergency department and in St Andrew's Hospital. Yep. In the emergency department, in the ICU and emergency, and just mostly I was a mum, just with 3 children at home and working part-time. But
you had a professional carer's background, being a nurse.
Professional, yeah.
So you mentioned Chris, your sister, or Chris and Kath.
So both. Chrissy is still part of the business. So she and I obviously couldn't do it without her. She's also a nurse, and she runs pretty much all of the operation side of things, the human resources, and she's, very much a people person. Yeah. She keeps everything going on a daily basis.
So you went you went and spoke to Chris and Kath about what you'd experienced with John. And said, this is my idea. And they said, we'll do it with you. Just tell us about how that all happened.
Well, so I'd always wanted to own my own business. And in fact, in the early 2000s, Chrissy and I did start our own business. We wanted to, so it was a wedding registry business.
Right.
And that's what prompted me to get a Cert 5 in business and small business management, and did a business plan and learnt the basics about business, which I think that I always, I think you intuitively have like a mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset perhaps. So just wanted to, so we did this startup called Much Ado About Weddings, and we were in Melbourne.
All right.
And we ran that for a couple of years, Chrissy and I.
Yeah. So you were both living in Melbourne at the time?
Both living in Melbourne, both working as nurses.
Yeah.
And then doing this startup as well, where we had a variety of retail outlets where we'd take a couple, an engaged couple, around to the outlets for the day and give them champagne and lunch, and, they'd choose their gifts rather than just go to David Jones for their registry.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
And then so we did quite well at that, but the amount of time it took was not adding up to, what we could it was just so much work.
So you're spending a whole lot of time and not making a whole lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah.
The turnovers were good because people spend a lot of money on gifts.
Weddings,
but, it wasn't my field. Yeah. So we were spending a lot of time wrapping presents.
Yeah, oh my God.
and delivering presents.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of weighed it up that, it's easier just to clock on and clock off as a nurse. Yeah. You don't take it all home with you. And then
So you were doing this whilst you were nursing, or you took a break from there?
Yeah.
What, so you're doing it after hours and on weekends?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Just, not to put it all into a new venture.
Yeah.
And then
so you're quite entrepreneurial. You and Chris are quite entrepreneurial.
I think maybe you could describe us as that.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to start a family. So then as soon as I got pregnant and all the morning sickness and all the rest that comes with it, it was just too much. So we wound that up.
Right.
And one thing I have learnt to now is that, do something that what you're doing. So nursing, it was not just that big a jump.
Yeah, okay.
So customer service, phone, we had a lot of difficult customers.
That's a really interesting lesson, isn't it? Do stuff
Yeah.
Whereas wedding planning there'd be a whole lot of unknown in there, wouldn't there?
Yeah. We were making money on the wrapping, and people would say, oh, no, you can deliver it without the wrapping. And I didn't know what to do. So,
No, it must be wrapped.
It has to be wrapped.
So how long did you do the wedding planning business
Maybe
for?
2 years.
Okay.
And learned a lot about business.
Yeah.
But, went through all the firsts of, our first meeting with retailers and meeting with the bank and, all of that sort of stuff. Got all of that under our belt by the time we started this.
Yeah.
And so when my father-in-law was sick after that, I said to Chrissy, let's do it again, my twin sister.
Yeah.
And so we were going to start our own private business together. So we were, out in the shed creating care plans and risk assessment forms and all of that sort of thing. We were getting it going together.
Yeah, right.
But then we have a friend who is a partner at Ernst & Young, and we had him over, and he said, what are you doing, girls? You just need to quit starting from scratch and buy a business and just start doing it. And he just made it sound so simple. Just go and find a business and buy it.
Yeah.
And at that time,
keep going.
At that time, my older sister was working in a company called NurseLink in the office, and she introduced us to the owner of that business who wanted to retire.
Right.
And so that she made that introduction, and then we met with her, Joy Nugent. She's an amazing lady who pioneered private palliative care in Adelaide.
Okay.
And had been doing that for 30 years.
Right.
And an incredible woman. And so we bought the business from her.
So when you say you bought the business, did you get customers, clients, or did you get systems and procedures that it sounds like you were working on in the shed with Chrissy?
Yeah, all of that came with the business. So it was it only had a couple of clients at that time and a few assets. It didn't have much.
So it wasn't a massive merger and acquisition. It was a small purchase.
Yeah.
I won't ask you how much it cost, but let me ask it this way. Was it financially hurtful? Or?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all, no.
Okay. But it got you a start in terms of a couple of clients and a bit of a head start.
A bit of a head start, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we loaned Chrissy some money to buy in and then off we went. And,
Okay. So So you've done the wedding planning thing. That was good fun. You learn a whole lot, and then you took a lot of what were the key lessons that you took from that into the first few years of Yellow Door Care?
I think that the biggest lesson I learned from that is that we can achieve things. So all of those nerves of meeting with people, that was just my absolute worst nightmare. And it took a lot to actually sit with someone in their own business and say, would you like to come on board? It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Sales.
Everything was terrifying.
Yeah.
So we kind of worked out that you can do things. Yeah. And the older that you get, the more experiences you have, the more you understand that you're not going to die. Nothing bad is going to happen. Even if you do fail, you'll learn from it and you'll only grow stronger from it. So I think that they're the biggest lessons, is that we can do it and to not be frightened of that.
So were there any breakthrough moments or times where you thought, actually, I think this is going to work. This is going to, one day we might even employ 150 people?
Yes, I think that we always had the mindset that this was going to work, and we had our strategic plans and goals for the 5-year, 10-year plan, which were extreme, but we thought we may as well just go for it. And we were just saying yes to everything. So we were getting clients every single week, as we didn't realise the NDIS was going to be so big. But when we first started in 2015, we were one of the only businesses on Google. We were on the first page.
Really?
And now there's...
Is that because so many people were searching for this type of service?
I just don't think so. I think previously the funding was different.
Yeah.
Where it was block funding. The government had just block funding a few big players, and they would give all the funding to them, and then they would budget it out.
Right.
But with the NDIS, they gave the money to the participants. And so then all of a sudden the market was open to people like Yellow Door, where participants were looking for providers. So they wanted to change.
The customers going looking.
The customers
instead,
were going looking. So say someone with a disability was with a big provider and living in an accommodation with, and they didn't like the person that they were living with. They, in the past, weren't able to move so easily, but it opened up the whole system so they could move and choose another provider. It's all about consumer-directed care. They get to choose who they have providing the services.
Yeah.
And so that just created the open market, and we just happened to have a business ready to go when it first started.
So you saw an opportunity, then along came the NDIS, so your timing was good.
That was luck, yeah.
But you're clearly also doing something right because people refer new customers to you. Yeah. How do you control a culture of 150 people to ensure that everyone is doing things to the standard that you want?
Yeah. We just make it very clear. We have our values, our core business values, which happen to be in line with just the way we want to operate, which is, basically treat people like you want to be treated. And we treat our staff well, pay them well, and then in return they have a very good understanding of what our values are, what our reputation is in the market. And in terms of compliance, that's easy. They just have all their checks and balances with their compliances and trainings. We have mandatory trainings they must do. So in addition to their certificate, in individual support, we have created a whole suite of training, which we've managed to do over the last 10 years, in dementia care, falls risk, skins risk, medication safety. And so everyone has to participate in all of that. And we get feedback from clients. So clients tell us immediately if there's a problem.
Yeah.
So
because you do see horror stories in the papers and on TV. When things go wrong in this industry, everyone finds out about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's you'd never want that. So we're lucky that the tech has changed as well. I think this industry has opened up hugely because of the technology where you can have, everyone has an app and they write notes after every shift to let us know in the office how the client's doing that day. So we find out live how things are going.
Yeah, okay.
And, they have to log into they have to start their shift and the location, we know where they are and, we can, monitor everything pretty closely.
Yeah. So you mentioned Chris, basically one of the founders and now her role, I think you told me, is
the operations,
but specifically around people. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So choosing the right people to come and do a job that is regarded as really hard by most in society and who wouldn't want to do it, that would be really important. And then training them. But there would need to be an inherent sort of care element to their makeup, wouldn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. People don't really go into the industry unless they enjoy looking after people and get something rewarding out of it. Yeah. And in our office, we only have registered nurses, so everyone's, a professional and very well able to deal with any issues that come up during the day.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this theme of entrepreneurialism keeps coming through, and you and Chris clearly have it. Tell us a little bit more about your family. Are they all entrepreneurial, or where do you fit into the family dynamic in that regard?
Well, I'm just the little sister who's not,
So you and Chris are twins.
Chrissy and I are the twins.
Right. Who's older?
Me.
Because that's a weird big thing with twins, isn't it? Yeah, even though it's 10 minutes. But anyway, yeah.
So Chrissy and I, we're two of 6 kids,
Right.
and everyone's, a professional and, got their own thing going on. I'm not sure, if I'm too different to anyone else. We all have very different personalities for sure, but there's common traits throughout.
Of course.
And we're all raised the same by our beautiful parents. So,
Where do you think the entrepreneurial drive came from? Was your dad driven?
Yeah, my dad was a professional. No, they had the same jobs, and they were conservative. They wanted to provide security in our family. My mum was a nurse as well. She worked full-time night duty. She always wanted to be home when we got home from school. So that security was there through my upbringing, same house. Yeah. Mum or dad always home. Yeah. They weren't hugely social. They didn't travel a lot. So they were very constant in my life. So so no, I don't think it came from mum and dad. Perhaps the opportunities weren't there for them. But since I was small, just enjoyed the idea of being in business. Like I had a little babysitting gig going on when I was like 13 and had like friends like outsourcing little jobs to them. So
was it where did it come from? Not sure, but something was driving you to run a business.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just my personality, I think. I think, there's 5 different personality traits. I just think I'm, you kind of have a percentage of each of the personality traits in varying degrees. And I think I like taking risks and, measured risks, but nothing too reckless. But, willing to give things a go. Yeah. And I was very happy nursing, because of the lack of, not accountability, or there's certainly that. But, I was able to focus on being a mum, which was, in my mind, that was my main want in life, was to be a mum. So I was able to do nursing in conjunction with that. But I guess I just wanted a little bit more out of life because I find it exciting, and it has always been a dream to own my own business.
And you've been a great mum to 3. They're all finished school now.
All finished school. Actually, they all work in the business.
Oh, do they? Right.
So all 3 are working in there, and William and James are pretty much in charge of finance now. Big shout out to Teresa, who kind of mentors them. Teresa, I should mention her. She's been with us from the beginning. Yeah. And she's been an incredible support to both Chrissy and I throughout everything for the last 10 years. So she's been a rock. Yeah. So now she is assisting the kids to run the finance side of things. There's a lot of aged care, financial reporting, a lot of all of that stuff.
Okay, so that's interesting. All 3 kids in the business, all really interested in it, or are they doing it just So is there a possibility that that sort of leads to the next thing is this entrepreneurial spirit, which it's not obvious in you where it came from. A lot of people talk about this mentor or that mentor or this influence and, a grandfather or a parent or whatever it might be. It's not obvious with you where it comes from, but it's clearly there. Where could this business go?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you have plans for where it could go?
I think the plan, it's always been a challenge to know where to go with it, because the quality and the safety is the most important thing. You don't want to do anything that's too risky. And I think that if you were to grow too quickly, then that slips a little bit. And I still am very much part of the day-to-day operations.
So quality control is absolutely key.
Yeah, it is, because it's a family business. It's obviously very important to me personally, and obviously to our clients. So, you know, we've been approached by, on multiple occasions by private equity, that could take this business on to be part of a national brand, as many Adelaide companies have done. They have sold, and that's an option. But I really enjoy what I do, and I'm not ready to retire or anything like that, and so I wouldn't know what to do afterwards. So I'm going to just stick with it.
But let's say private equity came along and said, we'll buy 40% of your business, so we'll give you a pile of cash, and you can take that cash to expand nationally. How would you go if you had 1,500 people working for you across 4 cities? You'd have to detach yourself from that personal responsibility that you clearly feel at the moment.
Yeah.
So is that one of the reasons why you don't do it? Because you want to retain this personal attachment to the quality?
I think so. I have never worked for a corporation, so that to me sounds a little scary right now to do that, and I'd rather just keep it. We have certain freedoms, you know, that a family business allows, like having the kids working there and things like that.
You can employ your children. Yeah,
you can do things that if you were to, you know, open it up or go public or expand interstate, you know, you can't do certain things that is good for our family right now. And in the future, who knows? So you're clearly not profit, money type driven. You enjoy, or you seem to enjoy, all of the things that small, medium-sized businesses can offer. Things must go wrong from time to time. Just can you tell us a little bit about the things that scare you, keep you awake at night? It runs really smoothly now. I think setting up a business is very, you know, stressful, and obviously it's a lot of work. And you do make mistakes along the way. I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned is that we have to be very vigilant with taking on new clients. Some clients' needs exceed our capabilities and the capabilities of our care workers. So we just try to stay in our lane of what we know how to do. So, but you get a lot of pressure from these potential clients that you might not want to work for, or you can't work for. We just aren't able to deliver what they're looking for. Sometimes people's behaviours might be outside the scope of what our staff can handle. It might be a dangerous situation because you are in someone's house. You know, you don't know what's going on in that house unless you do a really robust risk assessment before you go in there. And, you know, there might be drugs, alcohol, mental health issues, you know, a family member that you didn't know about all of a sudden rocks up in the middle of the night, you know, and we've got a staff member there. So that's their workplace, and things like that can be unforeseen, but we have this, you know, really great admission process now. So we really vet our clients, make sure it's safe for our workers and make sure we can deliver the care. Otherwise, it's not going to work for anyone. So fascinating journey. And it doesn't seem like, you know, well, compliance is clearly absolutely fundamental to the whole business, and making sure you do a great job. If you keep it, you know, where it's at, and you don't do the private equity thing or whatever, then can you see a time where you wheel in your kids and you sort of step back, or do you think you're going to be too closely attached to it? Oh yeah, I'll step back. There's no problem there. It's what I'm doing right now, and I'm loving it. But so what's that look like now? I've got a great team. Joe, Nikki, Francis, Mesa, Shelley, Chrissy, everyone in the office. They're running things. I'm trying to step back a little bit from them, and I think they'd probably like me to move out a bit more. And
so step back, you mean as in you're doing less hours, or you're offloading responsibilities?
That's the aim, is to work less hours. Because as you know, with your own business, you can, and because you can do everything from your phone. I can start at 6 in the morning and work until 9, and then in the evening as well. And so I'm trying that and giving more responsibility to people in the office. But yeah, I don't think the kids will stay with the business. I think it's just a great vehicle for right now to learn a lot.
Okay.
But I think they have other aspirations. We haven't even talked about them, staying on.
Yeah, well, they're still young, aren't they?
Yeah. It's just kind of a job instead of, pulling beers or. So it's, I don't know what they'll want to do in the future, but it's a good introduction to finance.
Well, Meg, thanks so much for coming in
and for having me,
talking to us. I know it's not your natural instinct to come and do something like this. So thank you very much. It really is such a great story. Where the business has got to in just 10 years is an absolute credit to you and Chris and the rest of the team. The services that you provide are extremely valuable to a lot of people, having had a bit of experience in it myself. And the fact that 18% of Australians are now able to do what 70% actually want to do means that there's huge opportunity, you would think. And if you as concerned about your customers as it sounds like you are, I'm sure that you've got a huge future ahead of you, and who knows where it could go. So, but at the same time, I hope you enjoy spending a little bit less time in the business and a bit more time enjoying your life. So thanks very much for the chat. It's been really, really good. Yeah, absolutely. And good luck in the future.
Thanks a lot.